All right, welcome to Chapter 6, Courage in Moral Leadership. This is one of my favorite chapters. A lot of really good content in this chapter. So let's jump in here. So the learning objectives for this chapter is really trying to understand that um, there's a moral and ethical component to good leaders. And good leaders, they set the ethical tone, they set the stage for moral development, and they really establish a culture within an organization. And either it is an ethical culture or it is an unethical culture. You're going to be responsible for knowing and using the mechanics that enhance ethical organizations. We're going to talk about stewardship and servant leadership. And then you're going to try to recognize courage in others and unlock your own potential to live a courageous life, both as a leader, but also as maybe an employee or a student or a brother or a sister. This idea of living a courageous and ethical life goes far beyond just your employment and where you work. So leaders face pressures that challenge their ability to do the right thing, right? In every organization, there are conflicting values. There's a value of trying to make the most money. There is the value of trying to keep the shareholders and your boss happy. But then there's also the values of treating people fairly and being honest. And often, if leaders have personal weaknesses or they act in their self interest, they may give in to pressures to cut costs, to increase profit. They may give in to pressures from vendors or business partners or trying to please shareholders. So this is something that all good leaders face, and the great leaders are able to stand up to these demands and act ethically despite the fact that there are external pressures to maybe act in a different way. As I said at the beginning, leaders set the ethical tone. They have to act as positive role models. They want to focus on employees and customers, and they don't necessarily pay attention to personal gain or what they're going to gain themselves or trying to cut corners maybe to make more money. And they should be honest with employees, with partners, with customers, vendors, and shareholders. Good leaders, ethical leaders, they strive for fairness, they share credit, and we haven't talked about this in previous weeks, that good ethical leaders don't try to take all of the credit for a job well done. They share that success. And one of the big things is they speak up against acts they believe are wrong. They don't just turn a blind eye or maybe refrain from taking somebody head on because they don't want to get into a conflict. They're able to act when they see something they feel is unethical. So here, I'm not going to go through this whole chart here, but these are just some characteristics of an ethical leader versus an unethical leader. Right? An ethical leader, they strive for fairness, where an unethical leader, they deal unfairly. You know, an ethical leader, they serve others, while unethical leaders, they withheld support. An ethical leader shows courage and stands up for what they believe is right. And unethical leaders, they really lack the courage to do this. Acting like a moral leader, business is always about values, not just economic performance. And the single most important factor is ethical decision making in organizations is whether leaders show a commitment to ethics and in their talk and their behavior. So not only do they talk about running an honest and open and transparent and supportive organization, but they behave that way as well. How to act like a moral leader. Here are 10 attributes of what moral leadership looks like. Just from everything from articulating and upholding high moral principles to rewarding ethical behavior to treating everyone fairly. More than just Wheels, core values. So core values are values in an organization that don't change. Ones that an organization makes every decisions through. They look at these core values and they think, okay, if I'm making this decision, does it fall in line with what we really believe? And if we're trying to build trust, we're trying to build an environment that is non-judgmental, we believe in accountability and teamwork and learning, are the decisions we're making for this organization align with these values? So all great organizations have core values, and strong ethical moral leaders hold everyone accountable to those values. Moral leadership, distinguishing right from wrong and doing right, seeking just, honest, and good practice of leadership. That's moral leadership. We've talked about this before. There's 3 levels: pre-conventional, conventional, post-conventional. And as a leader, you're trying to move from the first level to the third. You're trying to get to that post-conventional level where you are following internal principles of justice, where you are balancing concerns with yourself with concerns with others, when you're acting independently and ethically, regardless of what other people and the organization may expect from you. Changing leadership focus from self to others. So we start here in stage 1, and this is an organization that's very top down, and we have in the top of that diagram under stage 1 control, where the authoritarian leader has all the power, and underneath it is obedient subservience, right, where there is control, and the center of that control is with the leader. And then as we move to stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4 is the opposite end. And that on the other end, we have the servant leader. And the servant leader believes in sharing power, in giving employees credit where credit is due, including employees in decision making. So there's the transition from someone who is a controlled type of authoritarian to a servant leader. Authoritarianism management, we've talked about this numerous times in this course, and this is traditional leadership that is top down. They're mainly worried about stability. They are in charge of direct control, and the subordinates are controlled by the leader. They're not independent. They don't think for themselves. Participative management is when employees are encouraged to participate. Leaders determine the purpose and the goals, and they make the final decisions, but they do include the employees in participating and getting their feedback about how to improve organizations. Stewardship, as we move up the continuum from authoritarian to servant leader, is kind of in the middle. And it's a belief that leaders are deeply accountable to others as well as the organization, without trying to completely control everything. And they define meaning and purpose for others and take care of others. This is a stewardship type of leadership. Here's some more attributes of stewardship. They adopt a partnership mindset. They share decision making. They tie rewards to contributions rather than formal positions. So they reward people for what they do and how they perform, not just because they have a certain position. And they expect core team members to build the organization and not just show up to work every day. Servant leadership, leadership in which leaders transcend self-interest to serve the needs of others and help others grow and provide them with opportunities. So this is on the very opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to leadership. Authoritarianism is on one side, servant leadership is on the other. Here are some attributes of a servant leader. They put service before self-interest, and they both want to serve the individual, as in terms of the employee and the customer, and the organization. They listen first to affirm others, inspire trust by being trustworthy, and nourish others and help others become whole. They uplift the employees and try to encourage them to become the best versions of themselves. Courage, the mental and moral strength to engage, persevere through, and withstand danger, difficulty, and fear. The idea that you may be afraid, but you act anyways. When it comes to leadership, people who are courageous accept responsibility. It means nonconformity, so they don't conform to necessarily all the norms or pressure. It means pushing beyond the comfort zone. It means asking for what you want and saying what you think. And courage means fighting for what you believe in. And you don't necessarily have to be a leader to exhibit courage. You can be an employee. Courage can be demonstrated at every level of the organization. Abilene paradox, the tendency of people to resist voicing their true thoughts or feelings in order to please others and avoid conflict. So this is often people will, and this is a phenomenon everywhere in the world, people will not say what they think because they're afraid of what other people will say, even though something may be wrong and they see a flaw in the organization or something did. They are not standing up for what they believe in. How does courage apply to moral leadership? Acting like a moral leader requires personal courage. Opposing unethical conduct requires courage. So not only doing the right thing, but standing up when you see that the right thing is not being done. Whistleblowing is when an employee discloses illegal, immoral, or unethical practices in an organization. And there's a lot of laws here in Canada to protect people who are deemed whistleblowers, so there's no negative repercussions. Like, they're able to act and speak openly when they see things that are not ethical. Finding personal courage. You need to believe in a higher purpose, draw strength from others, harness frustration and anger, and take small steps, right? Courage can be a very small step. It doesn't have to be a huge leap. So that very quickly are the key elements for Chapter 6, Courage in Moral Leadership. If you have any questions about any of this material, like I said, it's one of my favorite chapters. I love this. I love this type of thing because it inspires you and encourages you to be a moral leader and to act with courage. So like I said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and ask.